What's up, Internet? It's Brandon. We are back with episode 8 of Free2Play Weekly. This week we'll have a little bit of new things going on. This will be the first week where I do a spotlight on Thursday. So after I post this Monday night, I'll post a poll for what games should be covered in the spotlight out of this video. And then I'll record a little more content, make like a 10-15 minute video just on one game for Thursday, based on community feedback on what you want that game to be. The other thing I want to call out this week is there was a game that it was malware and installed a virus on my computer, so it's dangerous out there. Make sure you're being careful what you're installing. The game is called Pirate Fi, so don't install that game. It's malware. Avoid it. There are a couple of people who are able to get reviews out there now that it's malware. I had already played it by that point. I don't have 5 minutes of playtime, so I can't review it. So I don't know how they did, but don't install that one. All right. We got like 30 something games to go through, and yeah, let's dive in. My recommended game of the week for this week is Newtonian Horror. It is a very interesting game. There's no inherent gravity in the world, and so you, Sir Isaac Newton, after discovering gravity, are attempting to get your discovery out to the world, but there is a cult that doesn't want the word to get out. And so they are trying to stop you from escaping and telling people about gravity. You navigate the maps by generating gravity and anti-gravity fields. So you can shoot a gravity field to pull things into a certain area, or you can shoot an anti-gravity field to repel things away from a given area. I will say, when it comes to movement, right, you have to use those fields to move yourself around as well. And so there's times where I would throw a gravity field down, it would pull me in, but it would also pull like a sword in, and I would just take damage from the sword that's stuck in the middle of this gravity field with me. So be cognizant of your surroundings when you're placing these gravity fields. Anti-gravity was a lot easier to move around with for me. I think I felt more comfortable almost rocket boosting myself around, right? Like using the recoil of my shot to shoot me the other direction was a flow that I found easier to navigate than like a grappling hook-esque gravity field where you're shooting it and having it pull you in the direction you need to be going. The combat, all you have are gravity fields, so sometimes you can, for like an archer, if you chuck a gravity field around him and he's trapped in a gravity field, when he shoots his bow, the arrow will actually come back and hit him because it's trapped inside that gravity field. But if you are too close, you get pulled in, and so you're going to be taking that damage and potentially block that arrow from hitting the archer. So there is a little bit of just trying to figure out what works best for you when it comes to the combat and trying to defeat things. There are weapons kind of scattered throughout the map that you can push around or pull around to try to damage enemies. And then it's just, trying to defeat everything that's in the map, the given map that you're on. And then once you do, the door opens, and then pushing yourself or pulling yourself to the door. And once you get to the door, you are able to finish that area and go on to the next area. The only other thing I'll say is the gravity fields vary in size based on how long you hold down the mouse button before releasing them. So if you do a long press, you'll get a wider field. And so that's another thing to keep in mind as you are pushing or pulling your way through these levels. But it was a really fun game. And yeah, so I had it as my recommended game of the week for episode 8. SteamForge is a clicker game that has just brutally slow progression. I clicked for about 4 minutes straight of just solid clicking and got to about 1,000 gems. That means to acquire the cheapest crate, which was 50,000 gems, I would need to spend over 3 hours constantly clicking with auto click enabled, which just isn't sustainable. So if you want, some performance test on your clickability or an endurance race against clicking, then SteamForge may be worth trying out. But for me, I mean, it would take me my entire life to get any progress done in this game. So it's a clicker that's out there for you if you want to try it. But, in my opinion, there's a couple other clickers this week that I would recommend over this one. Clutch, the Drift Simulation, is a car driving game with really high customization. You can set all your keys and your key bindings for how you want things to work. That having been said, I couldn't get the car to turn left, only right, which for the map I was on was problematic. But it has a very deep control scheme. It has a really high sim feel. The physics felt good. I was able to kind of get through the map through reversing a lot. But like there's, you can set your shift keys to move up and down, gears. You can set your gas and brake and all of that. It has steer left and steer right, which I set to A and D, but only the steer right was working. So I'm not sure where that disconnect was or if it was how I set it up. But the game looks nice. It has, like I said, a lot of customization available. So if you can get over the hurdle that I couldn't to be able to turn left, I think it could be a lot of fun to cruise around in this game and see how fast you can get going and how many donuts you can do, etc. Nock Load is a fun archery game where you're doing battles across a map where you can't really see where you're aiming on the first couple shots. So you just kind of aim up in the air, let go with your bow, and hope you hit something. And you can adjust as you go and try to hone in on where you need to be aiming to hit your opponent. After you win, you get to choose an upgrade. So you can choose, I think I chose armor for one of my upgrades. And so you can get some armor, you can get some extra money when you win a battle. There's a couple other upgrades you can get. And yeah, it was just a tanks style game, right? I don't know if you ever played tanks, but you just, aim and fire trying to hit your opponent across the map, and whoever hits their opponent enough to defeat them, wins that match, and then you go on to the next round. But I thought it was enjoyable. It's definitely worth trying out as, a game you can play through and progress in. Metal Strike is a shooter game. There is the option to play against bots like in a single player realm. There's no auto reload, so make sure you're hitting R when you run out of bullets, because I was kind of like, why am I not shooting anymore? And it was because I didn't have any bullets. F picks up stuff that drops on the ground. I think during my playthrough I ran out of magazines because I just couldn't shoot anymore. But I believe the screen didn't indicate that I was out of bullets, so I didn't know, and I was just confused as to why my gun wouldn't work, and kept slamming R to try to reload. But the gameplay was smooth. The hitboxes seemed fine. I was shooting things from a decent distance and not having any issues. So I think in a multiplayer game where maybe you don't have to do magazine management, it could be a fun, game to play and battle out with friends. It's Raining Acorn is a clicker game where you drop balls into a Plinko-style board. You can then add items to the gaps in the board that will either affect the ball trajectory or generate resource when passed over. I don't know how much you need to earn in terms of resources before the ascension option makes sense, but there's, you can ascend, which you reset and get some resources, some like advanced resources to buy upgrades. But up through my entire playthrough, if I ascended, I got 0 of those resources. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to do that. So yeah, you can place moss balls that'll block things and let them bounce around more. There's berries that give you resource when they're passed over. There's animals that give you different bonuses. And as you level up or gain more resource, you get more Plinko space, which lets you place more things. So the progression, is place your items. You can combine them. So if you have two of the same item, if you place the second one on top of the first one, it will upgrade it. So you can do a little bit of upgrading as well. This game plays kind of on a portion of your monitor. It's not like a full screen game. So you can have things up on the side while it's playing if you're, doing something. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's a decent game. As far as like a clicker goes, there's more to it than just clicking and waiting to see if you can get enough points to upgrade. Like there's constantly things you can be doing in addition to clicking to trigger more Plinko balls. Sewer's Adventures is an action game where you can use either a sword, a bow, or magic for combat. The final battle of this game is a beholder of sorts. I used the bow mostly and was able to beat the game using the bow. I felt the combat was smooth. It's a pretty short game, so you can sit down and play through it in a single sitting and kind of see what the developers created. But yeah, it was enjoyable. It's not too difficult. But I feel like if you wanted a challenge, you could try to run it with a sword, and I feel like it would be a very different play experience because the bow made a lot of things a lot easier in terms of not having to worry about getting hit by stuff and shooting things that are across a gap, etc. So if you beat it with the bow, then you can say you've beat it, but if you beat it with the sword, then you can say you've mastered it. So if this is something you want to try out, maybe give the sword a try. Let me know how it goes. Spared is an awesome game. It's another bowling game, and as a bowler, I gotta appreciate that. But this game is from the pin's perspective. So the concept is you're a pin on a bowling lane, and all these bowlers are just trying to knock you down so that they can get their strikes, and you have to try to dodge them so that you can be spared. See what they did there? I thought that this game had a lot of content. It's very good variety of challenges. When you go to jump, the time slows slightly, so you can kind of time your jumps to dodge things a little better, which is something I realized in the last 2 rounds of the game. But each round you face 6 balls from a given bowler. You have to survive at least 3 of them to pass that round. So you got to be ready to jump and dodge, and if you get hit by the ball or if you get hit by a pin that got knocked down, either way counts against you. So you have to make sure you're dodging the pins and the ball. The character design was cool. I thought that the different types of balls that each of the characters threw was unique and original, and yeah, it was a really good game. It was in my running for recommended game of the week because it was a lot of fun. So I would try it out if I were you. Desktop Siege is another game that just takes up a third of your monitor that was released this week. I've never seen these third of monitor games before, so it was a little weird to me to get used to, but it's kind of cool in concept of having something up on the side that you don't have to really focus on the whole time. This one's a tower defense game, so you place your towers, you can upgrade them as you earn money, you can place new towers as you unlock them, and you can also, your cursor counts as a pistol that you can click and shoot the things that are approaching your base. So you upgrade your towers, you click on things that are coming at you, and then you place new towers when you unlock them, and that's kind of every tower defense game in some ways. But this one's cool that it can kind of hang out just on the right half of your monitor. I thought the gameplay was smooth. I thought the types of creatures were varied enough where some would come up really quickly but not have a lot of health. Some would have a lot of health and slowly approach, and you had to have defenses that were built up against each of those. I felt like it might have been easy in some ways, at least for the portion I played. I don't know, like all these games are, I'm sure it scales up and gets more difficult. But I was able to decently manage how many things were coming at me, and my towers were pretty effective at keeping them at bay. So it's something you can leave up and kind of have running for a while. And yeah, it's worth checking out. Mini Idle Dice Monster is a clicker game where you roll dice and try to earn points that you can then use to upgrade your dice, or you can upgrade the types of hands that you get with your dice, or you, if you have enough points, can get entirely new dice. So you start with, I think, one or two, and then you are able to buy a third, and so you can have, it's easier to get a pair when you have three, and then it also unlocks the option to get trips. I felt like the scaling was pretty good on this clicker. It was maybe a little slow, but it wasn't terrible. It's got that Yahtzee feel as you roll continually, trying to hit different combinations. The higher numbers are worth more, so rolling sixes is just better for you than rolling ones. But again, you can upgrade your dice. So I think by the end, my ones were worth 3 points, and my sixes were worth 9 points, and my fives were worth 8, etc. So I was able to kind of grow the value of each dice, and then you have multipliers for things like pairs, for things like trips. And so you can kind of build. I think I had a multiplier for rolling over 15, which as you add additional dice, you're going to hit more consistently, right? If I had a fourth dice, the odds of me rolling over 15 is a lot higher than when I only have 3 dice and I need to be rolling 5s and 6s. So it was not too bad, as far as clickers go. I thought it was pretty good. And so yeah, if you want to roll some dice, you can give Mini Idol Dice Monster a try. BattleCore Arena is a fun concept for an arena shooter. It's Super Monkey Ball, but with guns. So you're a sphere that rolls around, and you're able to shoot people to knock them off the map. Dash timing in this game is pretty key to survival. You have to kind of click to dash. You right click to dash so that if you're knocked off the map, you can jump your way back on. I did a game versus bots, and it went pretty well. The game played pretty smoothly. And then I did a casual game, and that was also just me and bots. So I don't know if that was just the time of day I was playing or what, but there weren't any human people in the games, either of the games that I played. But I was able to get a feel for the game. I felt like the gameplay was fun. And it was a little chaotic trying to, stay on the map and do what you can, and not knowing the map. Sometimes you fly off the edge because you thought there was something below you. And then there's pretty good customization, so you can change what your ball looks like, change a couple other things. So it's got a lot going for it in terms of customization, and I think if the player base builds up, this will be something that would be fun to play, with a group or charging in with a bunch of randos and just seeing how well you can do. Cult of Persona is a great little clicker battler game. You shoot, you're shooting balls into this kind of pinball arena, and depending where the ball lands, you spawn that unit type. So you're clicking as fast as you can, but also trying to be accurate to get the better units. I thought that the gameplay was a lot of fun. The multiplayer is on the roadmap for this game, and I think that will be a blast, trying to see, you versus an opponent, how many things you can spawn, and work your way across the map and destroy their base before they destroy yours. It's a fun concept that I'm looking forward to seeing grow. Tulips and Windmills is another clicker game where you farm tulips. So that you'll place tulips, and you'll get a gardener, and you'll spin the windmill. That's where you're clicking to earn tulips as you go, is by clicking the windmill. I felt like this game had good pacing. It feels like you keep progressing as you go. There's mail that'll come on occasion, and that mail will give you bonuses that you can use. Some of them increase the number of tulips you're gaining. Some of them click automatically for you for a certain number of time. And yes, so it's, clicker game where you're farming tulips. I felt like the ambiance was good. I felt like the progression was good. And, again, if you're a fan of clicker games, the free-to-play section you're spoiled for choice. I Have More Hours Than You is an idler game that you just kind of leave up. Clicking doesn't really do anything that I noticed. So there wasn't a lot to do in between event triggers, but the timed events I felt were each unique or special. And as far as idlers would go, I'd like to see something I can interact with in between, more than just clicking for white light. But I felt that all of the event triggers were fun. There's a lot of stuff to be discovered in this game. There's a number of achievements around unique events. Steamboat Willie came out at one point, which I thought was funny. I think that there's a lot to this game. I would just like to see a little something you can interact with in between each of the events. But the events were cool and unique and different, and so for that, I'll give it a nod as a good game for sure. Hereford 1642 is a very large game. It's it's a project someone's doing where they're recreating their hometown, but in the 1600s. The sound settings for me did not work. I turned everything down, and the birds chirping in the intro were literally murdering my skull. But once I got outside of kind of the core area of the city, it was a little quieter, and I was able to actually enjoy, some of the architecture that was present in the game. You can tell that the author spent a lot of time mapping out where they're placing buildings and figuring out, how to make it look true to the original source material. There's a lot of buildings you can go inside. They don't have, not all of them have content yet. I think this is a work in progress game still, but it's really cool to just walk around and explore the town and the architecture. And I think that overall, from like a graphics and there's no glitching or anything like that perspective, I think that they've done a good job. Lawnmower Day is a small game where you run around and collect presents that your dogs leave in the yard while making sure they aren't hit by the lawnmower. If you get hit by the lawnmower, though, you also lose. So be careful of that. That got me. It's tough out there. The dogs are all named after Lion King characters, if that's any significance to you. But otherwise, it's just running around and collecting things that get dropped while trying to make sure that the lawnmower doesn't get to them. Neon Runner's Craft and Dash is a fun speed platformer with community and custom maps. So you get a high variety of maps to play through, and it's just, once you're spawned, try to get to the end as quickly as possible. And the faster you go, the higher you rank against other people who have completed the maps. And then I think some of the single player maps have like time limits that you have to finish by in order to progress. There's a ton of different characters that you can unlock. I don't know exactly how you unlock them because I didn't unlock any while playing, but there are definitely more than just the one character that I started with. I believe that you get them from like crates or chests or packs or something along those lines. The person I had, she had an ability where she could dash, sprint to move even faster, so that helps obviously when you're trying to get through a map as quickly as possible. But the gameplay is smooth. The high variety of maps is cool, so it's a nice little speed platformer that you can check out and try to see who is the fastest. Cemetery Warrior 7 Boss Rush is an arena shooter. There's a wave mode that you can do to earn coins. And then there's boss battles that you can sign up for, and you can use coins to purchase like power-ups. So the one power-up I tried out was I had a Hellhound who spawned with me and tried to help me in battle. But you need more coins than that to beat these bosses, I think, because I had a really hard time with both bosses that I faced. So spend some time in the arena, earn a decent amount of gold, and then utilize that gold to, push yourself to glory against one of the bosses. ShapeShifter is a pretty difficult platformer game that you can play. You can gain momentum off of your opponents by the launch angle that you land on their heads. So the tutorial gives you a few like, hey, jump on his head here so that it takes you over to there. Jump on this guy's head here so it takes you over to there. And then it is still in the tutorial, and there was another jump, and I just couldn't get it. I don't know if it was just because I was tired. I don't remember what time I was playing it, but I just had a really hard time jumping and hitting this guy's head to launch across the area. So yeah, it's a platformer. It's got some cool physics components to it, but it is pretty difficult. So, if platforming is your thing and you live for it, this is probably something you'll want to check out. And if platforming games fill you with dread, then I would probably skip this one. Iron Cauldron Guess the Colorblock is not really a game. It's more of something someone made to learn, the random function in Unreal and applying colors across a surface and some other stuff. But pressing play randomizes the block color, and that's what the game is. So I don't know how much game there is, but you know they're learning. They put it out here for free so other people can see what they're learning, and that's cool. Door Game Deluxe at face value seems like a beginner platformer game where you're walking around as a door, but there's much more to this game than meets the eye in terms of content. It's very funny. I think the writing's great. I think there's a lot of interactions that are entertaining in this game, and there's a turning point on your second, maybe third playthrough where you kind of go down the rabbit hole and learn what this door really has available to it. So I don't want to spoil it too much, but try this game out. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. Jurard Run is a good side scroller. Bosses have predictable progression, so you can learn them and you can work your way through the game. Most of the game is about positioning to not be in an explosion or a laser. So you'll get used to kind of the timing on when to jump and when to dodge when you see those lasers that are coming or the circles for the explosions. I thought it was good. I thought it was a difficult game to get that timing down, but once you got the timing down, it felt beatable. It felt like something you can progress through, and I felt like it was a well-made, 2D side-scrolling shoot 'em up. Concentration required is a bullet hell where you can only dodge and have to collect coins. It's not a misnomer to call this concentration required. It was definitely a game that I had to try to maintain focus while trying to beat level 2. Level 1 I was able to beat okay, although the difference between level 1 and level 2 is level 1, all of the spikes kind of gather on the floor, so you can't touch the floor for the most part. Whereas on level 2, you can land on the floor, but there's just so many things coming at you that it's hard to dodge them all. It was pretty difficult. It took me 10 minutes trying to beat level 2 with just, jumping around, getting hit, restarting, jumping around, getting hit, restarting, in that order. It was fun, but it is challenging. So if you're going to try this game, I recommend you maintain your concentration. Grapples Galore is a fun arena shooter where you have double grappling hooks, one on your left arm and one on your right. There's a lot of cosmetic packs available for purchase, but the full game is accessible freely. You don't have to pay for anything to play the game. There's guns on the ground that you can get by dragging yourself over them, or if you land on the platform, you can walk with WSAD. There's to shoot the gun, you press F, so you aim and press F, and then you have both arms for both clicks for your various grappling hooks. It was a little hard to get used to the grappling hooks and how to swing my way up onto things, and then also trying to time F with your crosshair is a little more difficult than clicking, which is what most people are used to when they're shooting. So trying to, track someone with a charging up railgun while holding down F instead of clicking is difficult, but it was fun. I got some kills, so it's not impossible. There was a gun game mode, which I thought was cool, where you start with the best weapon and work your way down, and that's a good way to kind of learn the game and learn the weapons. So check out a gun game and see how it's going. There were a decent amount of servers available when I was playing, so there's people online, which is great when you have these games that are mostly multiplayer shooters. Wizards in Shorts is a multiplayer arena shooter where you can find spells around the map to use. There's a number of different spells which all function in different ways, so there's decent variety of weapons that you can find. You can switch between them using mouse wheels, so if you have a spell you like, you can still collect another one You don't have to use like the most recent one you picked up, which took me a little bit to notice, but yes, you can switch between spells. I played against a bot. I did have one game where there was people, but the host left and it kind of ended. So I played a game against a bot just to get a better feel for the different weapons and kind of how the gameplay goes. There's also a climbing area at the start while you're waiting for a map to launch, but I couldn't make it up. So if you make it up to the top of the climbing area at the start, let me know. Farmer Toon is a pretty good farming sim. You can customize your character. There's a multiplayer auction house where you can sell and buy things with other players, which is kind of cool. It isn't flagged as early access, but they are engaging for input on future enhancements, so I believe it's a work in progress. But yeah, you farm your stuff, plant it, grow it, harvest it. You can get a pet. I think I had a dog and a cat, so I assume you have to feed those. So there's a lot of content to be had in this game, and a lot of different crop types you can develop. Planting and growing crops is pretty straightforward. So if you like farming sims, this is a free game that you can jump in and get farming with your friends, and you buy and sell and trade with each other to see who's the best farmer around. Croak Crusader, spawn of the Spore Spectre, is a platforming game where you use your tongue to launch you in various directions. It takes a bit to get used to how to move your mouse to launch yourself in the direction you intend, but overall the game has good art style. I thought it was fun to play. I liked grabbing my opponents with my tongue and just yeeting them in the other direction on the map to try to kind of work my way through. You can swing yourself and like power through walls, which is kind of cool. And like I said, the main thing with this game is just getting used to what do I have to do with my mouse to swing myself into the area I'm trying to land. I felt like that was most of the difficulty in the gameplay, was figuring out how do I enact the movement that I want for my character so that I can continue to progress throughout the level. But it's a nicely made game. It's a good amount of fun, and so I recommend trying it out if you like platformers. Room 54 Horde Survival is meant to be a Call of Duty Zombies style game where you build up your defenses, earn points, utilize those points to unlock better weapons, and further defend from waves of zombies. It's not listed as early access, so I'm not sure if it's getting updates or not, but I felt like bullets didn't hit most of the time when I was shooting at things. One thing I did learn in my playthrough is that the zombies are programmed to react to gunshot sounds. So if you never shoot, you won't get attacked. There's an axe in the basement, but you can't swing it. So I don't recommend grabbing it because you'll end up where I did, which is, I had an axe, so I couldn't make a gun sound, so nothing attacked me. So I was quote unquote safe. But I couldn't swing and attack anything, so it wasn't super effective. I did discover that you can kind of kill zombies just by jumping on them. So I did that for 2 waves worth of zombies, where it said like wave completed, 1,000 points earned. But I never earned those. Like those points never went to my point total, so I couldn't get a gun to make sound to, trigger them attacking me. So I don't know if, like I said, if this is getting updates, maybe that'll get fixed. But as it stands, I don't know that this is super playable. Nifty Smashers is a Super Smash Bros. Style game, but there are different objectives for each stage. So the gameplay that I played through, one round was hot potato, one round was musical chairs, where you had to like collect something before everyone else. One round was king of the item, where you have to like grab the item and hold it away from everyone else, and other people could attack you to make you lose it, and then you'd have to fight to get it back. It was whoever held it for the longest. And then there was also a free-for-all round, which was like try to knock people off the map, traditional Smash Brothers style. This game has a lot of currencies and character customization content. So there's a lot to unlock and earn through playing this game. But the gameplay was smooth. It's kind of a pretty cool concept in terms of, each round being a little bit different and whoever can be the first to win. I think it was 3 rounds for the one that I was doing. So it was fun. Definitely something that, is worth trying out. It's also in early access, so it'll continue to get enhancements throughout that early access period. Beat Around the Bush is a really cool concept for a game. Basically, the game has been created by utilizing the top comment on the YouTube channel of whoever created it. And people will post just like a prompt like, the bush is, sentient and does XYZ. And so then they would go and program the bush to do that. And in the game, they even have a wall of, hey, here's all the additions we've made and changes that, people have requested that you can go and read. And some of them are pretty wild. So it'll be fun to keep playing this game and seeing how each of those prompts is executed, because some of them are pretty wild. There's some that are like random chance, so you probably have to play a decent amount to see those happen. I did play horror mode where the bush just chases you, so that was interesting. But yeah, so it's a neat game. I like the concept a lot of it, being built by the community and the developer just kind of taking what's given to them and making it work out. I think that's really fun. So this is definitely an interesting little title to check out. Alien Fury is a timing-based shooting game that requires, or at least recommends, a controller. Basically, you just aim in the direction where things are spawning to prevent being hit by the shots they shoot. And then every so often, a boss will show up that you have to time a shot to hit them as they circle you, because you can't move. You're always in the middle. This felt like a just timing game after a while of just trying to, as soon as you see something, shoot it, right? And just getting in that groove of, zoning out a little bit and just wherever you see motion on your screen, just hitting that direction on the controller and hitting, your A button or X button, depending what type of controller you have, to shoot at them. And so I felt like I did pretty good. I got kind of in a groove in my, once I learned how to play and what was going on. There's not really a tutorial, so I died a couple times while just like waiting to see how the game worked. But once I got a feel for it, it was I was able to get pretty far, and I feel like it was a cool game. If you scored higher than me, comment below, let me know, because like I said, I felt like I was doing pretty good. So take some good reaction time to keep that train rolling for sure. Hidden Tomatoes 3 is a hidden object game where you find tomatoes, and this is actually a sequel to a game that was covered in a previous episode. So in episode 5, we had Hidden Tomatoes 2, and so this is the sequel to that, Hidden Tomatoes 3. It's a very similar concept, just with a different map. Scroll around trying to find all the tomatoes. I found all but 2, so there's 2 out there somewhere that I wasn't able to find. Like I said in the last video, it's hard to find them because you have to see it at a certain angle, because there is a level of 3-dimensional layout to these maps, and so if you're just off by a little bit, you can't see something if it's behind something. So 2 tomatoes I left out there, but I was able to find 98, so not too bad. But just like the last time I talked about it, it's a hidden object game. If you like trying to find things in a crazy map, then you can go look for tomatoes in this little mountainy forest area. When it comes to games that I did not play this week, there were 3 visual novels. There was one game that required 2 controllers and only supported local multiplayer. And then there was a VR-only game, so I'll go over those. The Pancake Paradox is a visual novel that is in early access. There's only 1 chapter available right now, and is described as the story of 2 women who make pancakes in the middle of a sandstorm, even though the planet is dying. Atropos is described as Atropos is a visual novel in which you will learn about the story of Atropos, the Prince of Capernaum. I did play a little bit of this because it's not tagged as a visual novel, and it definitely is a visual novel. But it's about a guy who wants to take over his kingdom from the king. He's a prince, and the trials and tribulations he encounters along the way. First steps in the NICU is described as, welcome to First NICU Experience. Experience neonatal care in the serious game. As a nursing student, work with medical staff and families to care for infants and tackle post-discharge challenges. With interactive choices and story-driven gameplay, learn key skills in 1 hour. So if you're looking to get in the hospital game, try this one out. Rebound Rivals is a local multiplayer game that is described as, blast into action with your trusty air cannon with gameplay inspired by air hockey and additions like traps and power-ups. Play with your friends in the classic game or go all out in the destructive chaos mode where you have more than your opponent to worry about. El Passant Elementalista is described as escape room VR game where you embody a beginner magician seeking to graduate. Enter an ancient crypt to return the golden scroll using your powers and creativity. Extract elements, cast spells, interact with the environment, and combine spells to create new ones in this mystical adventure. This one I didn't play because it's VR only, but if you have VR stuff, this is something you could try. So there you go. That is episode 8. We got through another week. I did shift the schedule a little bit. I don't know if you noticed where I'm going Sunday through Saturday now for what games I'm reviewing. There were a couple times where games would be released Sunday, and I just don't have time to play a game for 20 to 30 minutes, or if there's 4 or 5 games released on Sunday. So the cutoff's now going to be Saturday because I can get caught up on Sunday games, earlier in the week, a lot easier than the night I'm, doing all my recording and cutting and audio and stuff. So the new window will be from Sunday to Saturday. So otherwise, look out for the poll about what to cover in the spotlight on Thursday, and I will talk to you guys then. See ya.